Okay. Okay. I am currently the Vice Chair of the NEU SEND Organising Forum in England. It's quite interesting for me to see how issues are, managed, supported, and policies and procedures in England. I was a group member of the SEN Workload Review in Northern Ireland, and I'm currently the Secretary, which Danielle has already told you. My current job is the Strategic Lead for EODIS Key Stage 4 in Northern Ireland. I hope all of you know what EODIS is, but it's education other than it's school. So really we have, in Key Stage 4, we have, coming up to 300 young people who cannot maintain a place within mainstream schools across Northern Ireland for lots and lots of different reasons. No young person is the same, okay? So why might we have to manage difficult situations? Okay, why might we have to? Well, because of large class sizes. Because of mixed groups and mixed ability classes. This is very, very clear for me. A lot of young people coming through with undiagnosed learning needs. We have a lack, there's a lack of knowledge, about young people at the minute, about communication. All right, insufficient funds for classroom supplies and resources, poor accommodation, not there to meet the needs of the number of young people we have coming through, and it's definitely not being updated due to financial restraints. We've definitely had a huge increase in workload. I mean, it's important for you to know that I am still a teacher. I'm still teachers' terms and conditions, and I'm very much, feel like a teacher. The pressures on schools, the structures and the supports due to all of these things, this is growing, or it's not getting easier, and we're all facing sort of post-COVID, okay? So, current issues that face pupils, and I think, for me, as being a teacher, the number of years I have these issues always been in the classroom? Yes, some of them have, but I think, all of the things I'm about to tell you, we are so much more aware of them now. We're under a lot more pressure to deal with things and to manage things and support. And I think it does no harm just to go through these, just for you to realize what you're dealing with really in an average classroom. So the young people, what are their thoughts at the minute? 2 years disruption. Young people are living with poverty, child abuse, neglect, bullying. Cyberbullying is a big thing. Some violence, eating disorders or hunger. Drugs, big trend at the minute, vaping. Increase in mental health issues, and there's a definite lack of support in Northern Ireland at the minute. Unstable home settings, school absence and refusal to attend, expulsions. Within my service, I could get 12, 15 expulsions in a year, young people that I've got to support and educate. Dealing with self-harm and related abuse, and a lack of one clear policy across Northern Ireland to help us and support us to manage behaviour. Okay, this is a major, major thing that I would love all of you to kind of try and force the issue that we need this in Northern Ireland, one clear policy and approach, okay? I'd like to encourage you to think behind behaviour and to think about what it is telling you. Okay, don't think of behaviour as bad behaviour. Think about it as trying to tell you something. Okay, try and think, why is a young person behaving the way they are? All right, what's the reality for all of you? The reality is that there are low-level behaviours that may be challenging, and then there are extreme or higher levels of behaviour that may be challenging. Okay, what are the low-level ones? So the pupils that are not prepared, they're not prepared for the school day, they're lacking homework, they're unprepared. Some of that's pupils' responsibility, some of that's parents' responsibility. Okay, there's a lot of young people across Northern Ireland who, their parents have a lot to do, they're under a lot of pressure, and maybe the pupils aren't getting the support they should to get them prepared for class or for the school day. So we've got low-level classroom disruption. Every teacher faces that, drumming, interrupt, and go to the toilet, all these sorts of things. Very low-level disruption. We've got repetitive behaviors that disrupt the class for others. And so why would young people be, repeatedly behaving in such a way to stop the class? You've got to think about reasons for that. Repetitive behavior that's hindering their learning and progress, and it is meant to distract or divert because they either don't feel that they can learn, or that, there's reasons behind that. Okay, non-attendance. It is a challenge to teachers because they're always trying to get the young person up to speed, and non-engagement, even when in class, is difficult to manage. More extreme behaviors that some of you are, have experience of. For myself, I'm never really surprised at any behavior or experience I've seen. I think I've seen it all over the years, and it's not easy. Sometimes it is a challenge to manage, but I think the more experience and the more you understand the behavior and the more confidence you have in managing difficult situations, the better it's going to get and the quicker they're going to be resolved. Okay, we'll talk about a wee bit of that later. So aggressive behaviors, damage to property, should, they happen in schools, and they're hard to deal with. Persistent bullying, pupils under the influence or suspected influence of drugs, so they're at risk to themselves and to others. A lack of respect for boundaries, physical and emotional violence, a lack of engagement and progress, and repetitive breach of school rules. If you look at the suspension or the suspension, all of those categories, they're there for a reason. If we had one clear policy across Northern Ireland, we would all know how, we should potentially manage all these situations and what the consequences were. All right. So as I said before, always think behind the behavior and what it is trying to tell you. Okay. Oh, look at that. Now, so what I'd like you to think about, some of the, if you can think to yourself about something major that's happened within your school. More and more recently, I'm hearing about kids who are kind of going off the Richter scale, thumping walls, breaking windows, and, the principals or the link, member of staff to myself is telling me that the child didn't look like themselves. They looked vacant, or their eyes didn't look like the way they normally look. And the child is reporting that they don't remember even behaving like that. I suppose I'd like to ask you that, if a colleague or your partner or somebody that you loved behaved like that, how would you react? Because sometimes, and I mean, I've been a classroom teacher for a long number of years. Sometimes you want to be saying, calm yourself down, sit yourself down, stop doing that. I think if a colleague or, somebody that you loved behaved like that, the first thing you'd be saying to them is, what on earth, what on earth's wrong? Come on, tell me about it. Let me help you. All right. So it's important sometimes to think, not with a teacher head on, but with a very nurturing head on, because the behavior is very extreme. I think if a colleague or a partner behaved like that, you'd be saying, come on, let's have a cup of coffee. Let's talk about this. How can I help you? Okay. So good practice. What does that look like? And I mean, I know I've had, a lot of experience in, with extremes, but I mean, I was 20 years a classroom school teacher in a secondary school. And I think, if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have been a better teacher. Okay. I did always enjoy teaching, and I always had that kind of nurturing side to me. So I think with good practice, what we've got to look at being prepared. Now, what I'm talking about here and being prepared is being prepared and knowing your pupils. Okay. I'm taking it you're all professionals, you're all going to be prepared every day. That's part of the job. So in terms of knowing your pupils, what does that mean? Okay. I'm talking about knowing the number of statemented pupils, what they're statemented for, what support that they maybe require that's mentioned in their statement, I'm talking about knowing, how many pupils, maybe are involved with CAMS or with youth justice, any issues that the pupils have, any, IEPs or any targets or anything that have come, especially if they're coming from primary school. Those are the sorts of things that LSAs can really help with, learning support assistants, because you can definitely, if they're used properly within the class, they can definitely support those kids and help you to support them. So it's important to know your pupils, okay? Understand your audience. The reality of what does that mean in an average class in Northern Ireland, maybe in a secondary school at the moment. Well, it's not just about statemented pupils. In an average class in Northern Ireland, you're probably going to have, if we're talking about 30 kids, you're probably going to have maybe 2 that are living with adults who are maybe alcohol dependent. What does a child look like, or how do they behave if their parent is alcohol dependent? All right. Well, a child like that, believe it or not, and there's loads of research that will tell you this, a child like that is more likely to be highly organized, is very, very well turned out. They will not want to stay behind after school. They will not want to engage in, things that may take them away outside of school hours, because they want to get home to, hold everything up at home and try to make everything normal. So it's important sometimes to understand why, that there's maybe 2 kids living with alcohol dependent parents. There's maybe 4 or 5 kids who, have mental health issues, maybe 4 code of practice, maybe 3, 4 undiagnosed issues that, the code of practice hasn't been going down. But those issues are definitely there. So whenever you think about that in an average class, think about all of that you're juggling. All right. But the more that you know about those things, the better you're going to be more prepared for them. All right. I'd really encourage you to use the supports within the school, to know your policies. And if you're having, if there's areas that you're finding challenging, set up a team within the school, if there isn't one there already, to talk about it and to help, because you'll not be the only one. If you're having, things that you feel you could be doing better at, or you want to discuss, or, think about from a group, it's much better to talk things through with a group. So in lots of schools now, there'll be, behaviour management teams and teams that people can meet and discuss. It's important for me to say at this point that if you feel that that is necessary within, your school, you've got to get it onto that time budget, okay? Because it's important, and you need it to be able to keep up to date and to keep things moving and keep that support going for the young people. All right. I would really, really encourage you to record and communicate. Whenever I know teachers are really, really busy, you're having conversations, you're talking, in the corridors while you're passing members of staff. I would always ask you to follow things up. I think it's a really good practice to follow things up with a wee email, and keep things moving along. Refer to support services. Right now, I suppose from my education authority hat on, there are loads of things being set up, and it's a lot clearer how to refer to them, within the EA website. So, for young people who, maybe need behaviour support for it, there's, BP1s to fill in, there's different forms to fill in, and there's different, targeted support that's available to you. I mean, I even talked to some schools, now, and they're not really aware that that support's been there, and I can completely understand because of all the changes and regular changes within the Education Authority. So it's worth having a wee look on the Education Authority website just to see the supports that are available. Okay. Seek advice from multidisciplinary teams. Sometimes you will find, if you do your research on those young people, and there's social services involved, and maybe education and welfare involved, it's a really good idea to talk to those multidisciplinary teams. All right. I've mentioned Operation Encompass there. I hope that we're all aware of that now. I had an incident even this week where, there was really good communication about a young person who had, experienced domestic violence during, in the early hours of the night. you know, it had been a major issue. The child had been, you know, taken into care. You know, our IOTA centre was contacted very early in the morning and told. We were able to talk to all of the staff, and that child was able to come into us, and the staff were fully aware of that situation, and were able to support that young person. Okay, now easy wins, and this may be the bit of my talk that might be valuable to you. It might not. Hopefully you'll give me a bit of feedback. Easy wins for me are the very first contact you have with any child. It has to be really positive. Okay, so if you imagine a young person who really doesn't have much support at home, they maybe don't even have an alarm clock to get up, hopefully on their phones and things they will nowadays, but you know, they don't have much support to get their breakfast, to have their uniform ready. You know, they might miss the bus in the morning, they're maybe late for school, caretaker saying, oh, you're late again, school office, they have to sign in, reinforcing they're late again. They get to the class, and the very first thing, you know, maybe a teacher says, I mean, it is instinctive for us to say, you know, why are you late again in front of everybody? Or where's your homework? Or you missed a detention with me yesterday, or you were supposed to stay after school yesterday. You know, as soon as you see them, what I would just suggest to you is it's so important for that first contact to be really, really positive, and to say, come on in, you know, get yourself organized there, get yourself sitting down, and I'll come over in a wee minute to help you out, or whatever. Try and have those conversations about difficult things one-to-one with pupils. But you've no idea how many young people I talk to, and you know, it would really make you flinch if you heard, you know, what their experience of a school day is. You know, especially if they're behind on their homeworks, they're behind in their work, or they don't have their pens or papers, or you know, they don't have their PE kit, and they don't have their home economics stuff. You know, and a lot of that, you know, pupils need support, or you know, kids need support with that. I would suggest to you, you know, if you do have pupils who regularly come without pens, papers, resources, it's a good idea just to have a few wee pencil cases and things. I'm sure most of you are doing that, just so you can set them on the desk and be ready for them. They'll really, really appreciate that. Okay. Deal with repetitive, flexible issues as a team. Okay, if you look on the, you know, Sims, and you know, people are recording, you know, behaviors of pupils. If you're finding, even within the classroom, that a pupil's doing something repetitively that you're finding irritating, or you know, it's stopping the learning of others, or you're just thinking, well, why are they behaving like that? Talk to your colleagues, talk together. They'll be doing it in other people's classes, and try to come up with a plan and involve the young person in it. Okay, it does work. Understand best practice communication. So that's about, you know, how to communicate with young people. Generally, young people absolutely hate it if, you know, you're talking about them in front of other young people, in front of the class. It's embarrassing, all of that. You're much more likely to get a bit of back chat. You're much more likely to you know, get them to, you know, they'll disengage, they'll walk off, they'll, you know, use bad language or whatever. Try to understand that, you know, it's best to talk to them maybe, you know, quietly. You might want to get them to sit down, you know, the way that they communicate best as well. Sometimes as teachers, we're really good communicators, but sometimes for young people, they maybe would prefer something to be written down, or they prefer a visual, something like that. All right. Just, it's good to know about the best practice communication. Communicating with parents and guardians and those around that multidisciplinary team is so important. If you're trying to manage difficult situations with young people, you need to communicate, because it won't be just at school. You know, these young people will be having problems outside of school and at home, and sometimes within the community. So it's really good to communicate with parents, guardians, and supports. All right. The last one is so important, and it's a really good thing to do, to, instead of saying, you know, to a young person, you know, can you go and sit down, or, you know, when you're in a difficult situation, or, you know, giving them a direction, it's much better to give them a choice, and you're in control of that choice. So you can choose something that you know the young person is probably going to choose. You'd be happy if they chose either, but if you're trying to get them to, do something, if you give them a choice, the likelihood is that they're going to choose the best one for them. So if you're going to give young people choices, you're in control of saying, I'd like you to, either sit down and, try to get on with that, or, we'll have to arrange for you to come after class to catch up on that work. Or, if things have got a bit out of control, I'd like you to maybe have a seat wherever, or go and see, Mrs. Beatty, who, is in your safety plan, and, I'll be able to let her know you're on the way. If you give a choice, it gives a way out for young people. Whereas if you say, I want you to go and see so-and-so, the likelihood is they're going to say, no, I'm not doing that. But it really has worked for me over the years in some really, really difficult situations. You give a choice and they take a choice because they want a way out. Okay. Now, use positive models to change behavior. I was going to tell you about just a thing that I did in school, which had a massive positive effect, where we targeted 10 pupils who were either very low attenders, they were at risk of suspensions or expulsions, and they were real underachievers. And what we did was, and a few of them were kind of bullies, and they were racking up the behaviour points for misdemeanours. But what we did was we targeted them, applied for funding, and we did a thing called the Lead Learners Project. I don't know whether any of you have ever heard it, through the University of Birmingham. So what we did was we actually, asked those young people if they'd like to run clubs in the school after school, sometimes during break times and lunch times. And we rewarded them for doing that. I was able to get vouchers, and I was able to give them a budget to run the club. But the most important thing of what we did was we actually trained them to be leaders. We trained them how to recruit, the young people for their club. We trained them how to, do the administration. We trained them how to, plan the sessions. And it was absolutely amazing to see those young people, attend school more regularly because they were interested, because they were feeling good about themselves, they were really enjoying it. And a lot of those young people have gone on to do really, really positive things in their lives. And I do believe it was down to that. And I am sure, I've been in loads of schools across Northern Ireland where, there's things like that happening, which are really changing, really positively modeling, good behavior and good, qualities, and it's changing the behavior of, the young people in the real positive. This is looks like a really big slide to me, but I really wanted to just say about Sims, about using Sims for recording. To try now, I read reams and reams and reams of Sims reports on young people, and I would just ask you as teachers to try not to make it repetitive, to not put in any personal opinions, but to spend a wee bit of time reading the previous behaviours of the young people, because that will really give you such a knowledge of the patterns. And then again, I would say to you, to visit colleagues who maybe don't have the same issues in their class, and kind of talk to them about what they do, or even ask if you can sit in. I mean, I used to do that all the time. Now, it might well be you that's the good role model. So if you don't, say some of your colleagues are saying, I'm having a real problem with Jimmy, and you're thinking, God, I really like Jimmy, he's doing really good in my class. It'd be good for you to offer to help and say, why don't you come and just see, or I'll talk to you about the things that I do. To note actions and targets, recording communication, and also saying with support, saying what the young person has done, but also saying, this is the support we've put in, or this is what we're going to try. Okay, and then and look at the full picture. Whenever I look at Sims reports, I'm saying, arrived at class with no tie, or, late, things like that. It would be really good for a group of people to kind of look at what's behind that. Okay, plan as a team It makes you feel really good whenever you're talking to your colleagues and whenever you're coming up with solutions and you're seeing real progress. We do an awful lot of that in EODIS, where we're having to try things again and again and again, and talk through strategies, and it does work. Whenever I talk about modeling positive behavior as well, sometimes if a young person in a class of 30 is repeatedly, doing, tapping or, making noises, whatever, it's a really good strategy to say to somebody who's always really, really good, and to say it loudly in front of everybody, thank you so much, so-and-so, for being really, really good. I like the way you're quietly getting on with your work. To model positive behavior. And what you see then is the young person sometimes the young person who's maybe tapping it, they just stop, because everyone else kind of gets a bit quieter whenever you say that. Okay. It's okay for something to happen one time, but then you need a plan for it. So I'm talking about the more challenging situations. What does that plan look like? The plan looks like you or a group or the LSAs, it might be a bit of an unknown, and you might feel a wee bit out of your depth, so you think I might need a bit of training on that. That's okay. That's kind of what models, training days, whatever, in school. I'm thinking of instances like, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we had a lot of problems with legal highs in a lot of the centres. The children were, coming in off their head, things like that. We had to train, the staff into how to manage that. And in my experience, whenever you do that, your staff team feels much more confident about managing those situations. Whenever you're in the unknown, you feel a bit out of your depth. So it's okay for something to happen once, but then you need to really prepare yourself for something like that happening again. Okay. Model good positive behaviors and use this, to be very clear about what you expect. You'll know this, young people actually like to know what to expect. They like it whenever things are clear. So as I was saying, model that positive behavior. Be sure to give loads of rewards and things, positive rewards. Restorative practice, bit of a buzzword at the minute, post-incident learning, resolution meetings. But I mean, for the world in which I live in, this is really, really, really important. We would never really bring young people back after school, for like a detention or anything like that. But what we would do is to sit the young person down, maybe with a parent, maybe with the member of staff that something had happened with, and we would go through a very, very clear process, a written down process of, what happened, how did it make you feel, what would you do if this happened again, how could we support you, and be very, very clear moving forward. It's much better than, kind of bringing somebody in after school and not engaging with them. So we would always do that post-incident learning or the resolution meetings. And we do see that really, really helps. Now I can get templates and things like that if you don't have them already. Okay. There are also really good digital apps for that, you can get them on iPads or, where the young person can fill that in, and you get a really good feeling, and then it can easily be emailed to an inbox. Okay, but it's worth looking at those digital tools if you haven't got them already. When things get out of hand, you need things like risk assessments or risk reduction plans or safety plans. So risk assessments and things should be shared with everybody. There's no point in doing them and them just sitting in a drawer. You've got to share them with everybody that's, is involved. With risk reduction plans, everybody's got to really agree to that if they're involved in it. Most definitely the young person needs to be involved in this. Safety plans are very, very important. And, the young person has to really agree to those for them to work. It's important for me that those are done as a team and that people are involved in it. To me, it's so beneficial to hear everybody's ideas, because everybody knows the child in a slightly different way. And it's only whenever you have those group discussions that, you know, you can work forward and things can, you know, you can try things and work through the process to get something that works. Communicate the plan with all involved and set a time to review it. You know, if something's going well, sometimes we tend to forget to go back to the young person and say, listen, this plan has really, really worked, or to go back to the parent and say, this has really worked, or you know, or the carer. And it's good to keep that up for a period of time until you see things, you know, worked through. Reward good practice, and that can be very simple and effective through, you know, notice boards, depending on whether it's primary, secondary. You know, you'll all be very good at that. Okay. In school, what can you do? So communicate with your peers. That's hard, and it's hard in a mainstream school. But as I said before, you know, if it is really beneficial. So make time, you know, make time to do that, and speak to senior management about that, you know, if necessary, so you get time. I'd encourage you to look at patterns. You know, when incidents happen. Is it after lunch? Is it a certain period of the day? Is it a certain day of the week? Is it after certain subjects? And what does that tell you? Those sorts of discussions are really good in groups because people notice things. Involve LSAs in those discussions too, learning support, you know, anything like that, because people notice things, they have conversations with children, and you'll be able to pick up lots from that. Okay. Use your PPA time or your time budget effectively. You know, where there's a lot of behaviour management or a lot of support needed for behaviour within schools, you need time to do that. So I'd definitely be having conversations with the management teams about doing that and setting things up so that everybody's feeling a lot more positive, a lot more comfortable about it. Use peer pressure. Now this is something really, really funny. I'm going to show you a really, really old wee video clip in a moment, but it really, really works. If you know, want to change behavior, pupils generally want to fit in. Teenagers generally want to fit in, think more about themselves than they do about others. So you can use that very, very positively to model good behavior, or to model real positives, or to get young people to push themselves a wee bit, or to socialize a bit more, or to get involved in group dynamics a bit more. Now, Alistair, I hope this is where this is going to play. Now, this is really, really old. It's from Candid Camera. I just want to show you how, as human beings, we behave, and you will all have really, really good examples of, you know, you'll be able to think how people like to fit in. All right, I hope that this works, this link. Okay.
Try spacebar, Bruna.
Sorry?
Try the spacebar.
To do what?
It will sometimes just play a video automatically for you.
Okay, can everybody see that?
No, we can just see your presentation.
Oh. So, scroll for details. So, can you see that? No?
No.
Do you have to share that on the screen instead of the presentation?
Okay, hold on a second. Where do we see? Alistair, can you help with that? Hold on a second. New share. Is that better?
That's you, thank you.
Okay.
Have you got the sound on, Bruna?
Yeah. Can you hear the sound? No?
No, I think it's feeding into your headphones.
Oh. So if I take those out, if I take this out, oh. Well, what you're seeing here is an experiment. There's only one person in this lift that is a stranger to it. Everybody else is an actor. Right, I'm going to play it a wee bit and we'll see. Everyone else is an actor, and it's about how the person in the middle is behaving. Okay. There. But. Whoa. Can I get you back, folks? Danielle, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Bruna. So if you go to share screen and just go back to your presentation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do that. Right, hold on a second. Okay, are we back?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so listen, you look that up if you can. It's just candid camera, black and white elevator. It's really good just to notice how people behave. Young people behave like this all the time. You know, we've used it within EODIS, you know, to get young people to dress more appropriately by, you know, asking the pupils to, you know, maybe, you know, wear hoodies or something. Then you always find it's really good to model positive behavior, and you can really affect maybe one young person who's behaving in a certain way within a group if everyone else is, you know, modeling very good behavior. Okay, so it's worth looking that up if you can. Understand that pupils learn differently. You know, sometimes it's really good to think about that. You know, the learning styles, people who learn by reading, people who learn by, you know, visually, you know, think about those learning styles. I'm sure you all do that in your classes every day, but sometimes it's worth having a wee think about that and talking to the pupils about that. Okay, now, not so easy. And this is the bit that, you know, I'd like a wee bit of participation, but I'm not sure whether we can have it. Can we, Danielle? Can we ask people to give examples or not?
They can't actually respond, Bruna, but they could put something in the chat if they wish to. Okay,
so what I would love you to do is to put in the chat, you know, maybe, you know, and you can send it to ourselves, or you can put it in to the chat if you want. It's not so easy whenever you feel vulnerable. So maybe an example of that would be where, you know, maybe you found yourself after school in a room with a pupil and you knew you were feeling vulnerable, and you know, what do you do? How do you make sure that doesn't happen again? Okay, very difficult situations. This is things usually where young people get out of control, and you know, there's a bit of violence or a bit of destruction. Or young people are, you know, maybe getting hurt, or others are getting hurt, or, you know, maybe teachers are, you know, maybe attacked or things like that. Very, very, very difficult and complex situations. Extreme aggressive repetitive behavior. I know within our service, there's a lot of young people who, you know, if we take examples of young people, you know, maybe in the care system, you know, a lot of that behavior is quite normal for them to protect themselves. So it's very important that we learn how to manage those types of behavior in the best possible way to give those children the best chance within, you know, a mainstream school. And I think that might be the basis of one of our next presentations, because I'm quite happy to talk through things like that. I never want you to feel like you're ever on your own. I think it's really important, you know, as an educator, that you feel part of a team, that you have a support team within your school, that you know what supports are there, and you also know within the unions that you've got really, really good support. I know for myself, you know, I'm regularly, you know, messaged or contacted about certain things, and you know, I know from a union perspective, there's an awful lot of support and help and training there. Communicate with your colleagues, with management, and with Board of Governors in line with policy and procedure. I think sometimes a lot of teachers, especially, you know, in the early days, you know, you don't put your head above, you know, the parapet, and you don't say, God, I would really like it if we could set up a wee team to look at the management of this group of pupils or whatever. So it's really good to communicate with your colleagues, and I know in loads and loads of schools at the minute there's really, really good supports there. Record and report. You know, back up conversations with emails. I know from a union point of view, and I suppose a lot of, you know, the phone calls and queries that come in to the union, you know, people will be telling us things that have been happening but it will never have been backed up by an email or the evidence. So, you know, I think if somebody, you know, agrees to give you support, and, you know, you're managing a difficult situation, you know, you've talked about it in school, you've set up a plan, you've got support, it doesn't happen. It'd be great if you can just confirm, yeah, listen, further to our conversation today, I confirm that you are going to, you know, give me a learning assistant for these periods to try to help, or, you know, we're going to split the class or something like that. It's good to have those things backed up with emails. Obviously, we're going to, you know, want to encourage people. We don't want people to feel, you know, they're on their own, or they don't know what to do, or they're, you know, they're in deep water. We want them, you know, all of you, to know that the union's there for you, or to talk to your rep in school. You know, in lots of schools, there's really, really fantastic reps, and, you know, therefore they're there for you. And if there's anything that they feel they want advice on, they know where to get us. Okay. It's good to think about, you know, unions as well, in terms of, you know, the excellent, you know, PRSD, or the opportunities and resources they have. I know on all of the websites there's resources, and, you know, those are really, really beneficial. And I know for me, whenever you do spend a bit of time looking at those, it's really, really positive. Okay. Understand the systems of support that are within your schools, and, you know, outside of school, you know, counselling services, you know, things that you're entitled to, and, you know, that they are there to support you, well-being hubs, things like that. You know, we're much more aware these days, you know, about, you know, our own well-being, and I think it's really important that you understand the systems that are there, even if, you know, you're going through you know, a system with, you know, the support of your union, or you're going through a procedure. It's really, really important to have read up, you know, the policies and things, and know what to expect. Okay. Now, this is the bit where I'm going to rely on our union colleagues. I can't see the chat at the minute, just to see if we've got anything.
There's nothing in the chat at the moment, Brona.
There's nothing in the chat at the moment.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, what Alistair did share with everybody in relation to the clip that wasn't able to play properly is that we will share the full clip when we send the recording out, so that will be available to people. But yes, I mean, I suppose just to thank you, Brona, for that, because that was actually very informative, and there was a lot of very helpful tips. And I think one thing that you know, you said very clearly, and we do need, is that there is a lack of one clear policy or strategic approach, and it is vital that we have that, because it would make things an awful lot easier for everybody. And it also would mean that we could let parents know, pupils would know, everybody would understand how things are to be approached and dealt with. And that isn't currently the situation, and it's one we are striving to get. I think, you know, there's a number of things that you have said which will resonate with teachers in relation to looking at, you know, when you do find a child who is behaving, or a pupil who is behaving in a difficult manner, or is causing issues within a classroom, it can be difficult to deal with it, because you have so many other pupils in the classroom. But it is trying to take a step back, and even if it's after the event, to say, well, why is the child behaving that way? You know, what is it that's causing that trigger, and to try and resolve that, to try and find ways in which, and I think I love the tip where you said to give them a choice of what to do, because I think so many times we do put ourselves into situations where it's, I need you to do such and such, or you need to do such and such, and they say no, and you're then up against a brick wall. So giving the choice actually is a win-win for both, for the teacher and the pupil. As well, I think, you know, and it is, I thought that was an excellent tip, one I could have used myself when I was teaching. So I think if there are questions that people have, I mean, I think you probably have given them a lot of tips and hints there in relation to all of that. But I do think that, you know, there may be, oh, well, somebody's just asked, where will we find the PowerPoint presentation? And they said it's very informative. Thank you. The PowerPoint presentation will be on each of the union websites. That's NEU, UTU and INTO. And we will have, I know certainly we put out like a latest news to let people know where the information that is actually on the website with a link to it. So it will be, I think maybe you just search on the website. I don't know if there's particular places on each website that we are looking at, I have to say. We haven't got there yet, but a joint union area that we can actually put all the webinars in, so people will be able to go in and see what is actually there, because we have done a number of different ones to date. There's still no questions for you, Brona. I think you just were too comprehensive.
Oh, no, listen, it's a really, you know, I think I only scratched the surface. You know, we can talk about, you know, use of language. We can talk about, you know, repeatedly using pupils' names, you know, so you're developing that relationship. We can talk about, you know, things like, you know, for us, you know, we try not to contact home with negatives for the first few months, because you know, parents are so you know, distraught and used to hearing very negative things about their children. You know, we can talk about all those things, but I think that's for another time.
There is one question has come in here, Brona.
Okay.
In a primary school, is it suitable to have the policy split to focus at foundation stage and then upper key stage? What you're saying is here, one policy cannot possibly cover everyone. And I think that's probably true, yes, because there will be different circumstances, but there needs to be some kind of generality in those different circumstances.
Yes, and I totally agree. I totally agree. But I do think Northern Ireland is a small enough place that we could easily do this. We could easily develop, you know, a strategy or a policy that we all, I mean, right now, when you think about even expulsion policy, you know, we've got 3, you know, we've got so many different rules in Northern Ireland. It's hard for people to understand what's going on. And I think it would be just so much clearer if we had, you know, a clear direction on that. But I totally understand that we'd need to obviously look at that, you know, for the different areas within our education system.
Yeah, I think that's correct, actually. Alistair has just put in, and I think maybe just to say, Alistair is having technical difficulties, so can't sort of speak at the moment, but he's putting some things through in the chat. Yes. And he's correct in this one. We can explore a follow-up Zoom meeting rather than a webinar, so that members would be able to question you, Brona, on a panel. We wouldn't leave you on your own in the coming weeks. So we can look at doing that in response to this, that if people then would have questions and wish to be consulted on that basis. And there's another just statement in here, somebody saying, thank you for the presentation. Great to get reassurance that what we're doing is on target, and there's 2 emojis, happy ones as well. So well done.
Yes, you know, it's really good. You know, I know you'll all use humor in your school day. I know you'll use diversion, you know, all of those strategies that, you know, you couldn't survive as a teacher if you didn't have those tools in your toolkit. So, you know,
that's very true.
you know,
need to be able to laugh.
You need to be able to laugh. You need to be able to enjoy your job. And boy, have I got lots of humorous instances. But listen, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. I know school day is a long day, but thank you. I'm really sorry that I couldn't see you all, because I'm much more, you know, interested in that sort of interaction. But I hope you got something from the presentation, and I hope you all have a good evening. Okay.
Thank you from us, Brona, as well. It was really, really informative, and I think it's a topic that is so prevalent in all schools. Yeah, and it really, it can make or break your day sometimes when you have situations like that, and it just goes to show how important we are as a profession, because sometimes we are the only safe place for a pupil. Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right that we need to really push and develop those joint up policies that everyone knows what to do in what circumstances, and that we have guidance that is really comprehensive and understandable, available to all parties involved. So thank you so much, Brona.
No, not at all. And even if we think about, you know, the one policy or the you know, we need to think about then all the supports that go with that.
Yes.
You know, and getting that very clear so that people can easily access it.
Yeah, I think that's a crucial thing, particularly at the moment, and particularly the circumstances that we're in. Just to say, there's a lot of thank yous coming in here, Brona. Excellent webinar. Thank you. Very useful information. Thank you for the tips and strategies. Lots and lots of thank yous. So I think just adding to that to say, look, thank you very much for that. It has been extremely helpful, I would say, for all the teachers on it, and for those who will get to watch the recording as well. So again, thank you all very much, and we will get this up on the websites as soon as possible and let you know that it's available. So thank you once again. Thank you all very much, and good evening. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.